They say you need to hook your audience in the first 15 seconds. But I'm not really sure who they are, so... After all these years of waiting, Chaos Head NoAH is finally coming out in English. For those who don't know, my channel actually got off the ground by covering the Science Adventure series. You know, the one with... Don't mention Steins Gate. 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 Chaos Head getting an official localization always seemed out of reach, but here it is, coming to Switch, and maybe Steam? Bundled together with a new port of Chaos Child. It feels like I'm coming home. But hey, let's get to the real question. What is Chaos Head NoAH, and why should you care? Well, for starters, it's kind of an important piece of visual novel history. It kickstarted a multimedia franchise, which doesn't tend to happen unless you're bringing something wholly original to the table. This is the blueprint for Sci-ADV, and for all the series' faults, Science Adventure kinda changed my life. Chaos Head offers a dark and gripping serial murder mystery, fascinating psychological horror, innovative VN progression systems, and some of the richest atmosphere you'll find on this side of gaming. It's not perfect, or for everyone, showing a lot of that first entry trying to prove itself edge and budget crust, but it is undoubtedly charming and worth examining. You've likely noticed by now the lack of English footage. And that's because I bought a Japanese copy to make this video. The English version just isn't out yet. Besides, I thought it'd be fun to give this one some nice throwback energy. That's right, going back to the roots. Who needs half-baked takes based on first-hand experience? We're out here doing research. It is of course worth mentioning that I'm not going into this video completely blind. I've played the original PC version of the game with the fan translation and have picked the brains of Japanese fluent friends who've played NoAH about the new content. Remember, this is an introduction video, not a review. This time, I'm going to bother listing content warnings. It'd be quite lame to lure you in with my sweet words, only for some people to find out far too late that this is not their shit TM. I really don't want to understate how fucked up this game can get, cause it goes places most people just aren't comfortable with. Also, while we're at it, let's talk spoilers. I personally wouldn't consider anything in this video to be a spoiler, but I understand that the definition of a spoiler is not the same for everyone. I limited my footage to the first 3 chapters of the game and have no interest in talking about the plot. Some people might think that anything I show is a spoiler, and while that would beg the question on why you'd be watching this in the first place, just know I took you into consideration as well. The following will be an abbreviated overview for all of you people who want to know as little as possible. Enjoy. Dark Delusion game quite good. Buy the dark game, it is cool. Takumi bad person, he has every disease. Big mood. For everyone else, let's get into this a tad more. Takumi Nishijo is a shut-in high school student who spends his days drinking cola and playing MMOs. He has trouble communicating with people in the real world and only goes to school the bare minimum times per week to graduate. He lives in a shipping crate on the roof of an apartment complex in Shibuya as a series of odd murders start to unfold throughout the city, dubbed the New Generation Madness. Takumi initially has no desire to get himself involved until forces beyond his control give him no choice. His delusions slowly become more vivid and realistic, forcing Takumi to try to figure out what's going on while his world crumbles around him. Real talk? Takumi is easily the game's biggest filter. If you're into flawed protagonists, Chaos Head and by extension Chaos Child will probably be your jam. If not, Takumi will probably be insufferable. Dude's pretty foul-mouthed and has a personality I would generously call terminally online. The kind of guy who calls people DQNs. I don't think this man bathes. Still, Chaos Head blazed the trail for its sequels. Sci-ADV games are essentially character studies, putting deeply flawed people through the ringer to see how they'd react to the harsh sci-fi drama. I think this works really well if you're susceptible to that kind of thing. Takami's an interesting protagonist. How he presents himself differently in public and in private is fascinating to watch. Sci-ADV's whole shtick is about examining the cross-section between realistic science and fantasy, so it's important to have lead characters with real human issues to ground the narrative. Takami's flaws make him stand out amongst VN protagonists, and his depiction is extreme enough that it makes him perfect for this story. Even if a lot of people won't vibe with him. It might not look it, but Chaos Head is a pretty subversive work. I mean, every VN got the scumbag best friend, but not everyone has the VN Columbo!
These are my shirts. That's my underwear.
Now, I would never claim that Chaos Head started the trend of hiring an artist that's known for soft, cutesy designs, just to turn around and make the audience feel unsafe. But you could probably argue it helped popularize it. Time and time again, Chaos Head knows how to lower your guard and then find new, clever ways to completely dash your expectations with some genuinely effective horror scenes. Boo. Gotcha. Chaos Head introduced the delusion trigger system, where the screen will signify the player can hit the left or right trigger button to decide how Takami will perceive the following event. You can view a positive delusion, which will show him something happy or arousing, a negative delusion, which shows him something dark or horrifying, or keep him anchored in reality. On your first playthrough, this will just result in seeing different scenes in the game's common route. Then, on each subsequent playthrough, your choice of delusions will cause the story to branch and allow you to see the side routes related to each of the heroines. Once you've seen all of the endings, you'll then unlock the true route. Like with most Sci-ADV entries, reaching the true route can be rather convoluted. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is a guide game. I don't have any to link yet, but I imagine the website Kirikiri Basara will have a great one around launch, so keep your eyes peeled. Where I think Chaos Head excels best isn't story or gameplay, but atmosphere. Frequently, when met with challenging media, people tend to go, "Whoa, dude, what were they on? Drug?" But in this instance, yeah, I actually genuinely believe that. No, for real, like I saw this interview one time that said they were always taking hits of Have you ever been alone at your computer at night? Up far later than you know you should be? The pitch black room lit only by the glow of your monitor, light straining your eyeballs more with each passing minute, the crackling of your computer and monitor running in tandem filling your ears with white noise. But suddenly you feel a change in the air. Are you sure you're still alone? It feels as if someone's there with you, watching you. Your reasoning and anxiety start to battle for dominance in your mind. Which do you listen to? Surely it would be impossible for anything to be in your room with you. But at the same time, you find yourself frozen in place, unable to turn around and confirm. Logic gives out as anxiety begins to win. Whose eyes are those eyes, staring a hole into the back of your head? That is Chaos Head's vibe. Anxiety. Anxiety caused by the changing times, anxiety that the world is out to get you, anxiety that the internet is slowly worming its way into becoming a dominating force in all of our lives. Oh wait, I think that prediction came true. Make no mistake, Chaos Head can veer into immature, and quite often. Positive delusions exist, after all, and they certainly do make you aware that you're playing as a high school dude going through puberty, but I believe only focusing on that would be reductive. It's not schlock, even if it can often veer into that direction. At its most focused, it can be a sobering, isolating, and thought-provoking experience. I've always looked at Chaos Head in good faith, and I think the edge of negative delusions and the schlockiness of the positive delusions kind of adds to the overall charm. And fingers crossed NoAH doesn't prove me wrong. While the subsequent games in the series strive for painterly background aesthetics, Chaos Heads goes for a more photorealistic approach. They seem to be done with 3D modeling, with enough 2000s crust to make them uncanny. In a good way. It's stellar stuff, especially when the choice to do that likely came from working around budget constraints. The colors and tone of each background image is deliberately dull, reflecting both Takami's view of the world around him and the general bleakness of living in such a restrictive urban setting. It creates a drab canvas, which makes these sporadic moments of sci-fi horror feel like explosions of color splashed upon it. Chaos Head unnerves you, making the simple act of Takami walking around his boring city make you feel just a little uncomfortable. Have you ever walked to a convenience store after midnight or home from school on an overcast day? It's just you, alone, with each and every little thought and worry going through your mind. Do you remember how that felt soothing, yet off-kilter? Well, Chaos Head replicates that feeling quite often. The attention to detail in the visuals doesn't stop there though. The UI has some peak "we've got the spirit" energy. The text window might be basic, but the simplicity works. Honestly, I think it seems reminiscent of Command Prompt, and I'm sure that was intentional. The pause menu screens all try to emulate browsing a desktop, where moving through them uses keyboard sound effects, the save and load menus show Takami's computer, and the tips list emulates a piece of software. You gotta remember, this was the first entry in a new IP, so they had to do a lot of work to sell players on the grounded nature of the story. And to do that, an attempt was made to emulate technology they would be using in their day-to-day lives in the actual story. Since Takami is a shut-in and many scenes take place in his room in front of his computer, it was important to put a lot of effort into making it feel real. For example, when Takami is in a chat room talking to a friend, they really commit to the presentation and it just sells the immersion. Now, I know what you're asking before you type it in the comments. What does NoAH mean? Well, without going into too much detail, the NoAH in the title is just Chaos Head's way of signifying that it's the expanded and definitive release. This series loves its quirky naming conventions. NoAH includes 6 extra routes based on the game's heroines, which is pretty huge when the original only had a common route and 3 endings. I wouldn't call Chaos Head necessarily unfinished, but NoAH has a significant amount of new content to flesh out a lot of characters who felt underdeveloped. Plus, there's a lot more art, like new CGs, sprites, and backgrounds. And new music. In Takeshi Abo and team, we stan. This is also the only version we're getting, so it's not like you have much of a choice unless you want to play the original PC version with the fan translation. And hey man, no judging. This is the guy who played the first 2 episodes of Higurashi on 3DS. I understand the vision. Now, to end on a downer, let's get into everyone's favorite topic: censorship. Let's keep this civil, alright everyone? Chaos Head was ported to a ton of platforms until they kinda just stopped one day. Everything between the original 360 release of NoAH and the final port on Vita received various script modifications and cuts. I have no idea why. I am not Chio. My bathtub is too small to fit in, let alone stream in. And trust me, I've tried.
So, post-production update, turns out I lied.
Yeah, I can actually fit in this thing just fine.
The Switch version, despite being Zero Z, is not based off of the uncensored version of the game. For example, one of the character routes and the common route had various cuts and changes in the script, but the biggest change is that the original game's ending B was massively trimmed. The game is still tremendously fucked up content-wise, but arguably the darkest of that content has been cut or revised. Funny enough, even with these changes, the subject matter was still dark enough to have the game potentially banned on Steam as of writing this video. I don't know why, just that it did, and there's been no comment from Spike Chunsoft yet, so I'm actually not sure if you will be able to play this game on Steam come October. Fingers crossed, I guess. Alright, what's next? Oh, I guess that's it. I'm not really sure how to... Did you know you're legally not allowed to end a video essay on a niche game without being played off by Kota Hoshino? I just thought that was interesting. I don't have it in me anymore to belt out a proclamation that you absolutely have to financially support this or any series. Anonymous Code, the latest entry, has a Western release already confirmed for 2023. Maybe I'll make a video on that too, but my point is that SciADV has more or less had every game in the catalog make it West. That's pretty cool. If Chaos Head looks up your alley and the caveats mages needed to make to get it released don't bother you, this double pack seems like a steal. I'm praying that the localization is good. Looks like they translated the map in Chaos Child finally. Guess good things come to those who wait 5 years. But if it's subpar, well, at least Committee of Zero will be releasing their version based on the uncensored game at some point. I'm really excited to finally play NoAH. And maybe even replay Chaos Child. The Chaos semicolon duology is kind of a hard sell, but I'm not really trying to sell you on it. My purpose with this video is to simply inform. Do with this what you will, make your own decisions. For me, Chaos Head has always been a time capsule in video game form. It represents nostalgia for a time when we were all awkward teens, in over our heads, unable to deal with the crushing weight of looming adult life and the stress of conforming to be normal. There's value in that, in works of art that you can't feel 100% proud of enjoying, but regardless still make up an important part of you. Yeah, Chaos Head might come across as overly edgy in an effort to prove itself as a new IP, but under that edge is a bleeding heart and a psychological thriller like no other. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end. The wonderful individuals who helped make this video possible are @SupremeZerker for editing the script as always, Hot Cider for helping me make the thumbnail, and last but certainly not least, Anoravan and Chris G. Link, 2 members of Committee of Zero who helped me fact check. Please go give all of them your support. Also, if you are not aware, the channel is supported via Patreon. All of the wonderful names scrolling across the screen right now support the channel every month, and I thank each and every one of them. If you'd like to join the list of names, get 3-day early access on videos, see work in progress edits, and maybe even get a vocal shout out at the end of all of these videos, check the Patreon link to see how you can do that. This month's Metal Royal Slimes are Alex Austin, Autumn Jennings, Courtney Littleton, and Noravan again, Furion's Nipples, Happy Emmons, Hornkerling, Frozen Ace, Jeremy DeForest, Moonwatcher, Renteka Bond, Revan, Snigs, Wayne is Boss, and your friend Chuck. Because of how much the Chaos duology means to me and the channel, I put a lot of myself into this video, and I hadn't made a Why You Should Care video in 2 years, so I want to make all the future ones a lot more like this one than how they were before. Let me know what you think about that, and take care.